Hello and welcome to the Overdrive digital show. We're streaming live across our various social media platforms on Overdrive as well as CNBC TV 18. I am Soini Dutt. You guys must be wondering why we are airing this show today instead of our usual Friday 6 p.m. slot, and that's only because it's a week of firsts. It's the first time that Land Rover has decided to bring the Defender down to India. In fact, the SUV was launched earlier today. In fact, BMW too has launched the 2 Series Gran Coupe in India for the first time, and we'll get you that story in a couple of minutes. But for starters, let's show you a walk around video. Bert got some time with the Land Rover Defender at a showroom last week, and here's what he thinks about the SUV.
Earlier this year, Land Rover India had announced plans, their intent to introduce the iconic Defender model in India. Of course, with the delays due to the pandemic, well, the car didn't come down earlier, but it's finally here. It's arrived on our shores. This is the Land Rover 110, the Defender 110, and the 110 essentially denotes the length of the wheelbase, which in this case, or rather when the Defender originally came out, was supposed to be 110 inches. But now, of course, it still retains that. It's just a little longer than the 110. This is about 118 inches in length, but still the 110 stays. The other variant that's coming to India as well, that Land Rover will be introducing in India, is the Defender 90, which is the shorter wheelbase version. Now this, of course, is the 5-door version. You can clearly see there are 2 doors on either side of the car, and of course the boot. But the shorter wheelbase version will be the 3-door version with 2 doors and the tailgate for that matter. Overall, this is a fairly sporty and rugged looking, very masculine looking SUV. The Defender model came up in 1983. That was when Land Rover introduced this as a recreational vehicle for its consumers who wanted something a little more luxurious, a little more premium than what was already being sold in by Land Rover in international markets. The Defender, of course, now has gone significantly over and above where luxury is concerned. It's, again, like I said, on the exterior, there are all the contemporary elements that it's got. I love the look of the new grille element out here with the LED headlamps and the driving lamps. Looks fairly rugged at the front end itself. Moving on to the sides, again, characteristic or other, some very similar touches to what you would see in the Range Rover as well, which is supposed to be the more premium luxury brand from Land Rover as well. Nonetheless, you see that clean finish, very, very smooth, strong, horizontal lines, the shoulder line, the waistline, all of these extremely, there are no sweeps, there are no curves. It's all very angular, rather very straight line. Still looks fairly handsome, very attractive. Again, one of the characteristics of the Defender was the rear window elements, which have stayed on since the original Defender came out in 1983. It's been one of the signature design elements on the Defender. Now, of course, the Defender's abilities were off-road, and that's where it struck a chord amongst most people, because not only was it comfortable and luxurious inside, but it also had all the abilities that a traditional Land Rover was offering in its products at that point in time, and continues to do so even today. These cars are meant to go off-road in style, and the new Defender, the Defender 110, carries on with that legacy. Now, just to give you a brief idea, it's got about 210 mm of ground clearance. That's the ground clearance here. Again, this right now sits on Goodyear Wrangler tires, and these are 255/60, and these are 20-inch wheels and tires. Now, these are an 80 pattern, which means again this will be able to go almost every terrain. Hardcore off-roaders, you're never going to take something of this sort, hardcore off-roading in any case in this country, but these tires are good enough to get you almost anywhere that you would want to go. It's a fairly Spartan cabin, very nicely executed. Again, the straight line themes continue inside this interior as well. You can see it again in the line of the dashboard, in the lines of the center console, even on the steering wheel for that matter. It's a very nice transformer-ish kind of a look, looks fairly Lego-like for that matter, but it's a very impressive design and finish that they have applied to the Defender. Quite a few practical and innovative touches, like this small space out here where you can store your phone, and it's got a charging point, a USB charging point. So pretty innovative out there. You've got a cubby hole over here on either side of the dashboard. You've got lots of storage spaces all over. This center console, again, it's vacant at the bottom, so you can put in certain larger elements in here. You've also got storage spaces in here, and of course cup holders right there. So plenty of storage spaces.
We aren't done with the first look video just yet. Just let me remind you that you can send us your comments, any of the queries that you might have on our comment section. Bert and Rohit will be joining us shortly to answer all of your queries. What you've been watching is the Defender 110, that is the 5-door version. The Defender 90, the 3-door variant, will be coming to our show shortly as well. Just let's take a look at more of the features and the powertrain.
This is a full-time 4-wheel drive SUV, again with the terrain response too. That's the latest generation of terrain response that Land Rover has to offer on their SUVs. There's a host of things that is capable of doing, lots of off-road equipment in addition. Now, principally what has changed also is this new infotainment screen. It's not a large element, but it looks very impressive. Clarity is fantastic, the colors are brilliant, looks very premium for that matter. Land Rover continues to offer its rear view mirror, which also converts into a screen. This has got a camera mounted at the rear, and of course that displays the image or whatever is happening on the road on the screen right here on this rear view mirror. Panoramic sunroof extending from the front all the way up to the rear behind. Fit and finish is just brilliant, like any other Land Rover or Range Rover for that matter. So it feels very premium, it feels well built. I like the quality of the plastics also, soft touch plastics, especially on the dashboard, in the upper portion of the dashboard out here. Here leather finish on this, leather finish on the storage compartments and the seats. Again, fantastic fit and finish and feel to it. This current Defender, well, it's certainly not in easy access, at least not affordable access to a lot of people. Goes fairly up the price ladder. 70 lakhs initially for the 90, and then going up to about 76 lakhs for the 110, and upwards going all the way up to about 87 lakhs ex-showroom for the 110, depending on the variant and the trim level that you select. There are 5 variants available in the Defender range, both on the 90 and the 110. The one difference that the 110 gets over the 90 is, of course, air suspension. That's the only critical or the largest, most significant difference between the 110 and the 190. So this is the 2-liter petrol engine. You've got about 300 horsepower and 400 Newton meters of torque, which is more than enough to do almost any job, whether it's on-road or off-road for that matter. This is, of course, mated to an automatic transmission, and then there's also the 4x4 drivetrain, full-time 4-wheel drive drivetrain, along with the terrain response 2 system. Here's what I do like. They've got a grab handle, which you can utilize to step into the rear seat. You've got an armrest when there aren't 3 people seated in the rear bench. The seat was adjusted to my position, and as you can see, there's plenty of space again for whoever's sitting here in this rear bench. All the controls, you've got additional charging points out here, and the controls for all the AC functions are available right here on these knobs. 2 vents right available over here. In addition, the 110 will be offered with the state-of-the-art Meridian sound system, which Range Rover and Land Rover also offer in some of their other models. So what I do like about this is that there are lots of areas where sunlight is allowed to penetrate this cabin, which gives it that sense of roominess, gives it that sense of space, airiness, which is a very, very impressive design element. If you look at the roof over here, you've got small porticos that allow light to filter into the cabin on either side, apart from just the sunroof. At the rear, we have the spare wheel, which is mounted on the tailgate, and this opens sideways, and there you can see the boot. Enormous boot space, with everything that you need to jack up the wheel right under there. Solidly built, feels good. Very impressive and handsome rear end. I do like the fact that you get a full-size spare tire with the Defender. That's very impressive because not a lot of manufacturers that offer a product in this category give you a full-size spare. Most of them come with the space saver, but the full-size spare makes a lot of sense for a vehicle of this order. So this, in a nutshell, is the Defender 110. Bookings are open, and of course car deliveries will begin pretty soon. There have been certain delays with the 90, of course, and that will come out later in 2020 or in the first quarter of 2021. But for now, we've got just the 110 on sale in India.
So Land Rover has launched the Defender 90. It starts at 73.98 lakh rupees and the 110 at 79.94 lakh rupees. Today on the show, we are happy to have a veteran auto journalist and consulting editor of Overdrive, Bob Rupani, join us. He's enjoyed many overland expeditions with Land Rover cars, not only in India, but also abroad. Bob, thank you so much for joining us. Let's also have Bert and Rohit join us on the show, please.
Hi, Bob. Hi, Rohit.
Hello, Bob. Hello, Sohini.
Hi,
Bert.
welcome.
Hi. Thank you.
Welcome
Bob, I
to
hope
the
you
show.
can
So
hear me. Bob, can
Bob,
you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Perfect. Lovely.
All right. So, Bob, I have one question for starters. It's taken Land Rover over a decade to bring this iconic SUV to our shows. And online, I was reading a lot of, comments, a lot of people saying that, this does look contemporary, but to many, it looks like it's taken away the charm of the previous models, the way they were styled. What do you think of it?
See, there is no disputing the fact that the Land Rover Defender is an iconic machine. Now, when you have something that's such a big icon and you bring it out as a new generation version, while yet wanting to retain the original DNA, there are obviously bound to be very different opinions. Personally, I like what the designers have done. If you were to park the earlier generation Defenders and the new one alongside and watch the shadow of their profile on the ground, they'd look very similar, which means the same shape has been retained. For example, if you look at the rear, it's absolutely cut 90 degrees. It has a 90-degree vertical cut as straight as sliced bread, which is what the original one had. So that's been retained. Lots of the other elements, the windscreen yet is quite upright. Unlike many modern cars, it's not got a very sharp rake. So the designers, I think, while wanting to present a modern feel to it, a new generation design, have also, I think, managed to retain the most essential parts of their own old DNA. One being the profile, the flat rear, the upright windscreen. Then, of course, all around it's quite square. It's yet got that strength in it. With the new safety regulations and everything, countries all over the world have different requirements. I think given all that, they have managed to keep and retain the original DNA quite well, I would say.
All right. But Rohit, your views on this?
Well, I do like it. I mean, I've already said that as much in my first walk around. I think it was very impressive. It's got a lot of stature, and in that sense, compared to the previous generation 110, it still occupies the similar wheelbase and dimensions as the previous generation. It's very, very close to what the previous generation SUV was. Yet it's got all of those modern touches that a contemporary SUV in this segment needs and requires. So I think it's a very clever job that the designers have done in retaining the legacy and the DNA, like Bob said, in the current generation. Defender. So that's a fairly tough job to do. Keep in mind, there's so many regulations, so many requirements that have to be met at this point in time, and still carrying forward that legacy. It's an impressive job overall.
All right. I'd like to know from each one of you, what is that one feature or aspect to you that stands out in this new Defender? What makes it the icon that it is?
I think I'll go first. I think the amount of accessorization that is possible on the Defender and how it has all been planned right from the time the model has been conceived. I think that clearly shows off how well thought of each and every accessory is and the customizability is. And it's not only about cosmetics, of course, this being the Defender, what it manages on the road and off it also makes a lot of difference. And then how these accessories or how these customization options fit into that DNA is, I think, something that's very nicely designed. Everything to the last final detail, the kind of stuff that you can mount on the rear side of the vehicle, or even that little touch that they've given with the rear view mirror also turning up the feed from the rear view camera. That again is something that's going to be very helpful, which is over and above what you get in stuff like 360-degree cameras. I think all these small touches have been very nicely done, very nicely integrated, and they just increase the scope of the vehicle overall. And I think that is one of the standout things for me, how all customization options have been very nicely thought of.
All right. Bob, you were saying?
To me, one of the biggest differences in this generation is that now it's not a ladder on frame Defender anymore. It's moved away from that to being a monocoque, which to many people is a disappointment. They would have preferred to retain the original ladder frame chassis, which a lot of people believe is better for more serious off-roading. So the biggest departure from that is that now the Land Rover Defender is a monocoque. While I think that makes it a lot more livable in the sense that you can use it every day, the ride quality is obviously going to be better, and so it's a better touring machine. What I like is while they have done that, they haven't compromised on the all-terrain capability. They have retained the four-wheel drive, low transfer case. You have high range, you have low range. These days, most manufacturers are doing away with that. So the two most endangered things in SUVs now are a ladder frame chassis and the four-wheel low transfer case. So in this case, in the Defender, the ladder frame chassis is gone, but I'm so happy they have kept the four-wheel drive low transfer case. And they have amplified the all-terrain capability. I'm told the body stiffness, even on the monocoque, they've worked a lot on it. And they say that it's stiffer now than even the ladder frame used to be. So if they've managed that, and then you're getting the best of both worlds, which is on-road performance and off-road performance. It means the Defender now is a better all-round vehicle, which you could use every day and not just to go away into the bush and, things like that.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with Bob on that. Fundamentally, it's the difference between a monocoque chassis and the ladder frame chassis. And traditionally, and of course, even in terms of engineering, the ladder frame chassis has always stood out for off-road vehicles. But I think what has happened is over time, and we've seen this happening in the other products that Land Rover has to offer, whether it's in the Range Rover, under the Range Rover umbrella or under the Land Rover umbrella, they've moved towards monocoques largely. And that's also because of the ride comfort and the luxury that a monocoque chassis offers for people who are not really inclined to go out off-road. The Defender today is a fantastic brand name, but how many people are actually going to take the Defender, go exploring the world, see what off-road conditions are like, and use the Defender at this price point? I have my doubts about how many people are actually going to take it off-road. So the larger part of the Defender, which is its 4x4 ability, in a sense, is also wasted over here. It probably might have made sense to just have offered a two-wheel drive SUV as well to certain markets like this, where that's all that matters. It's on-road dynamics. But structurally, the ladder frame, a very, very important characteristic of the ladder frame was that you could go and bang it, damage it, and then just take a hammer and beat it back into shape and put it back into place and then carry on with your journey. Something that you cannot do with the monocoque any longer. Also, there's a lot more flex that a ladder frame chassis is capable of, taking in, which a monocoque does not. However, I'm not dismissing that the Defender might not, the current Defender might not have that amount of flex. It's when we drive it and understand what it's able to do. Just see how good is the articulation on that. We'll know exactly what kind of capabilities that chassis has got off road, for that matter. How good is it going to be on road? I have no doubts about it. The 110, it's got that air suspension. It's bloody. It is going to be damn good. I'm sure of that. So it's a question of just how well it performs off road. That is really going to matter as well over here. Now, having said that, the Defender is not alien to this country. The Defender has been around in India for a very, very long time. We still get to see the 110s and the 90s, up in the northeast of India, in Arunachal Pradesh. Sandak was one of those places where Defenders still run even today. So it's a testimony to the longevity, to the reliability of the Defender, that it still carries on even today, and it's still operational, it still works, and people still use them around northeast of India. Is that characteristic going to continue with the current Defender? I am not convinced about that. Most modern cars, keep in mind, are not don't have that kind of longevity. They're also much harder to repair and maintain. So taking them off road becomes even more prohibitive, because if something fails there, they're in the middle of nowhere. You want more analog systems. You want more simpler mechanical systems which can be repaired, fixed, and you carry on your journey. You don't want to be standing in the middle of somewhere at Everest base camp and not have transport coming back, for instance. Just as an example. So these are challenges that the new Defender will face. But however, saying that, there is a new customer base also for the Defender, and that customer is not necessarily the guy who goes out and lives the off-road or the overland lifestyle. They like the perception. They like to people to perceive that they enjoy that lifestyle. It's all about imagery, and the Defender satisfies that to a T. So this is also the larger customer that has come into the picture, because once upon a time the Defender was this hardcore off-road machine. Today it's not that; it's more luxury oriented, and there's a larger and wider audience for it. So accordingly, Land Rover has developed a vehicle for that kind of an audience.
All right.
I think, Bert, that
And
just makes it a lot more tougher now because even the Thar, something like Thar, we've seen a similar approach where what you're saying is right. It's more about the perceived image that someone wants to portray about them being, very that overland lifestyle, and they want to show that this is an extension of their persona, but they are going to spend most of the time driving these cars even on the road, and that is where everything from the Thar all the way to say a G-Wagon, the creature comforts have become all the more important because at the end of the day, they have to give them all the basics at least, and then again make sure that they have an upper hand over the next competitor. And I think that is what makes the job even tougher because now it can't be just utilitarian, so to speak. It also has to have all the creature comforts, all the features that you expect at that particular price point.
Absolutely, absolutely. Bob, you were saying something. Sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, there are two other things which I really like is that they are offering the Defender with steel wheels. Yeah, I really like that. One, because when you're going off-roading, you don't want to be worrying about, chipping your expensive alloy wheels and things like that. With steel wheels, it's very easy to beat them back into shape. Repairs are very easy, they're affordable, and these days, everything from small hatchbacks to, of course, more expensive cars, everything only comes with alloy wheels. Steel wheels are yet rare now. So to see steel wheels which have a lot of strength and look, of course, a lot more simpler, but I think it would give the Defender a very distinctive identity. So I love the steel wheels. There's one more thing I'd like to say and add to what Bert was saying, is that, after hearing the pricing today in particular, the Defender has now moved into the higher sphere of SUVs. Originally when it came out in 47 and then in the 50s and 60s and 70s, it was your preferred expedition vehicle. For anyone who whether it was the Red Cross or whether it was people doing work in the forest and deep in the bush, or people who said, let's go driving, spend a few years doing that, exploring and seeing the world through the windscreen. for them, the Land Rover Defender was a almost automatic choice. It was so tough, rugged, easy to repair. You had a small toolkit, set of spanners, you could fix it anywhere. Now, with all this added technology, it's not just raised the price, but it's the machine itself is so complex. If you wanted to, go where there was less habitation, where there were no dealerships, you would think twice, because the vehicle is so advanced that until and unless you don't plug it into some main computer and that does a diagnostics, and then you have someone very specialized come to just deal with the electronics and one part of the engine and one part of the drivetrain. It's not like the old days where you could carry one basic toolkit and any mechanic, whether it was in Mongolia or in the heart of central India in Madhya Pradesh, could fix the vehicle. So that, in a sense, is, I think, been lost out. But it's, how do I say, you move with the times, and that's the price we've had to pay.
Right. I think we'll take a couple of questions from people as well regarding the Defender. We have a lot of comments from Mayur Shah, but
Sony, one minute, I have to take this question. It's a very relevant question in all of this. Because here's an absolute legendary question. Will Hilux be coming to India? Because let's not forget, I mean, for all of us in this country today, the Fortuner is one of the ultimate off-roaders because of, it straddles that gap between affordability, the off-road ability, the good dynamics and comfort on road, the reliability, and so many other things. And all of this came from the Hilux platform. And unfortunately, the Hilux is something that they're not offered in India as of yet. I would love for Toyota to get down the Hilux to India. Toyota, if you're listening in on this, definitely look and consider getting the Hilux to India, even if it's going to take you at least a decade to do that, to execute that plan. But at some point in time, definitely get the Hilux down to India as well. I'm talking about the pickup here. But yeah, I think we can go on to Mayur's question.
Mayur is very disappointed that Land Rover has not given a 3-liter petrol engine option. It comes with a 2-liter. And he says that, can you please tell them to offer a 3-liter petrol engine?
Well, Mayur, 3 liters would be a little bit too much. Not only does it, more importantly, it will raise the price up significantly. Again, that's also the supercharged engine. Now, keep in mind the 2-liter, for instance, you still get 300 horsepower and 400 newton meters of torque. So it's a fairly powerful vehicle for whatever you need it to do. In that regard, there is nothing that is lacking. 300 horsepower is a lot of power. 400 newton meters of torque is enormous amounts of torque to shift mountains. So you don't really need much more than that. In that sense, I think Land Rover India has got the mix absolutely right.
He's also asked us, how does the Defender compare with the Wrangler?
Very hard to say. Very hard to say. What say, Bob? You think there's a challenge for a story for us over there? Have we lost Bob? I think we have.
No, Bob's still with us, right?
Bob's still with us? Can you hear us, Bob?
I could not.
I think his network is a
but
little.
I could not hear you clearly on that. Can you repeat?
So we got a question from Mayur Shah, who's asking us, how does the Defender compare with the Wrangler? But there's a story for us for another day, one of our epic comparisons again to come up in the future. Rohit smiling already, anticipating what we're going to get up to. But what do you think, Bob? Where would the Defender compare with the Wrangler?
I think we've lost Bob in the first connection.
Okay, I'll take this question. I'll take this question in the meantime till Bob comes back. And I think
Just trying to hear. He's connected again. Bob, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Bob, can you hear? Bob, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Bob, the question on the screen.
If you're facing a network issue, you could just stop the camera and we'll just listen to you on your audio. It should stabilize your network.
Oh.
Just stop cam. If you can just stop camera, we should hopefully be able to hear you.
Bob, are you still with us?
Okay, let me just take this question in the meantime, and
Yeah.
getting to the Wrangler compare. It'd be very tough. It'd be a very tough competition between the two in terms of what they each have to offer. Because the Defender comes in with a whole new luxury quotient that is significantly higher and better than what the Wrangler has to offer. Would the Wrangler's off-road abilities be much better? I would like to believe so. It will definitely be better. One, keep in mind, it's still a ladder frame chassis. It's got a powerful engine. It's a very mechanical SUV in that sense, compared to where the Defender is at this point in time. I mean, you wouldn't really. Yes, it's an expensive SUV in India today. But there is no comparison between the two. The Wrangler and the Defender do somewhat similar jobs, but with two different approaches to them. The Range Rover, the Defender will get you to where you want to go in ultimate comfort and luxury. You could get in a crisp shirt, step into the Defender, go off road, climb mountains, cross streams, wade through streams and rivers, and still get on the other side and walk out with your shirt just as crisp as you walked into it. I'm not sure the Wrangler will do that. However, the Wrangler's image is also not that. I mean, that's the car that you'd want to get in your boots, your shorts, and your t-shirt, and then go wandering the world and seeing what it has to offer. In that sense, those are the kind of differences that are there between the Wrangler and the Defender today, that exists today. But otherwise, it'd be very hard pressed. I mean, there's a story over there, and we're definitely getting that story for sure. Because it's not just the Wrangler and the Defender. There are a few others also now that have come into this space, and the 4x4, Rohit smiling.
I want to ask you that question, Bug, because I still remember your review of the G-Wagon, where you said that that's the car that you want to put your money on. And now you've spent time with the Defender as well. You haven't driven it yet, I'm sure, but spending a little time with the car there. I want to know, have you changed your loyalties already, or would you wait till you drive
No,
all the cars?
I haven't changed my loyalties. I still love the G-Wagon for what it is. The G350 was just incredibly brilliant. I can't tell you how amazing that product was. Will the Defender match up to the G-Wagon? I don't know. Keep in mind, there's also a very big. There is a bit of a difference in the pricing between the two. Though at the top end, the 110 and the G-Wagon, there it's very close to each other for that matter. But nonetheless, I mean, I'm not sure which one I'd like better, which one would be more capable. The question now remains to be seen is just how good these are off-road, because on-road, they're going to be very close to each other. The Defender, however, because it's got that monocoque chassis, is definitely going to should have much better on-road dynamics. Keep in mind, it's also got air suspension as part of the package, so it'll definitely have better road manners, far better than even the G-Wagon for that matter, and significantly better than the Wrangler. But I'd like to see on a day when I want to go off-road, go up to Ladakh, go up to Spiti Valley, go into the deserts of Rajasthan, or the forests of central India. Which one would I really love to be in is the big question mark.
Okay, there's an interesting question here as well. Is Land Rover planning to launch an electric in the future?
Well, they definitely do have plans for electric powertrain, but it's not going to come down to India anytime soon. And there will be more information on this that you will see Land Rover making announcements in this regard sometime in the future. They're definitely working on electric powertrains because at some point we have to go electric, even with the Defender for that matter. And this is one of the news pieces that we're going to come up with a little later in the day with Mercedes-Benz and the EQC, the 4x4 EQC, the off-road EQC that they've come. We'll come back to that news in a bit to see what's the future of electric powertrains on off-road vehicles as well.
Lazy Wanderer wants to know, will there be a more utilitarian variant of the Defender?
I don't think so, not immediately, Lazy Wanderer, but there won't be a more utilitarian variant. At 76 lakhs, there isn't, that's luxury utility for that matter. There isn't something. Don't go by the previous generation Defenders, which had the pickup versions and things like that. I'm not sure if the Defender really will come out with those versions in its current guise. So whatever it is, it will still be an SUV. It still offers a lot of utility for that matter. My question mark and what I would like to see right now is what kind of customization can be done on the current generation Defender. Because the previous generation Defender, there are some fantastic SUVs still out there, still in operation. I know for a fact Land Rover still uses the 90 Defenders In fact, as their backup vehicles on a lot of their drives, whether it's a Range Rover experience or whether it's Land Rover experiences, I've got some fantastic pictures of them modified to the T, and with some enormous and incredible kit on them. And that similar level of customization. Can that be done on the new Defender? I am not entirely sure, but yeah, let's wait and watch.
All right. Rohit, here's a question. Any upcoming cars from Tata? Price maybe in between the Nexon and the Harrier.
In all of this, Tata question has to pop up, no?
Yeah, and I really hope Tata had something to at least compete with the Thar in the space, but unfortunately they don't. The only upcoming cars from Tata are basically the HBX, which is going to be a very compact SUV, something that's going to sit even below the Nexon. But between the Nexon and the Harrier, nothing anytime soon. I really hope that they make a new Safari sometime soon, because that's one model line that they need to capitalize on for the kind of cult following that they have. But as of now, no. Then the next upcoming vehicle is going to be under the Nexon, which will be the HBX, which will be a slightly more feature-rich and a more polished alternative to something like the Espresso, and will also take on the likes of the Nissan Magnite that is coming up very soon. So yeah, that's all that is coming up from Tata immediately, is what we are told.
All right. We'll just take a quick break here from all the questions. You guys can keep firing your questions and we'll answer them as and when we see them. But for now, like I said at the start of the show, there were many firsts this week. In fact, BMW has just launched the 2 Series Gran Coupé today, starting at 39.3 lakh rupees for the Sport trim, going up to 41.1 lakh rupees for the M Sport trim. These are just introductory prices. Here's all you need to know about this sedan from BMW. Here's Rohit's first drive review.
We've often said this, the Indian market works in its own unique way, which also means that what may work in the global market may not necessarily appeal to India. One of the best examples of this fact is the compact luxury segment. Now, we don't usually associate luxury with the hatchback body style, which is the reason why the A-Class or the 1 Series didn't do too well. Then there was the CLA, that beautiful 4-door coupe body style, but even that didn't appeal to the Indians the way Mercedes-Benz hoped it would. Now, that is one of the reasons why the new CLA is nowhere on the roadmap for Mercedes-Benz India. What they have coming instead is the A-Class limousine, because they believe that there is space and there's more appeal for the classic 3-box sedan body style. But then again, the Audi A3 was a classic sedan that only made that initial splash and then just disappeared into the blind spot of the Indian clientele. But so did the A4. So let's just blame that on the design. BMW thinks that they can do better at this body style. In fact, BMW knows how to handle the entry-level clientele. They have done this quite successfully. They have the entire Mini lineup to address this particular client. They have the BMW X1, which is the best-selling crossover in this segment. And now they think that this addition, a 4-door Gran Coupe, could also appeal to many. Say hello to the new BMW 2 Series.
The 2 Series is a new model line for India, but in the BMW universe, this is the second generation of it. Despite marrying the styling cues of the 8 Series Gran Coupe to the compact size derived from the 1 Series hatchback, the 2GC has ended up looking quite blunt, and the face has a very upright and chubby appearance to it. Blame it to the Z4 or 8 Series inspired headlights, the detailing of which makes them look more vertical than horizontal. Adding further to that effect is the kidney grille, which sits lower than the headlamps.
I can't believe I'm saying this, and don't call me a hypocrite for saying this, but I think this is one of those BMWs which would actually look better with a larger and a wider grille on it. I also feel that the bonnet shut line should have been set a little forward, a little more discreetly than what it is right now. And a final bit of complaint is with the headlamp. While they look fine from where you are looking, but from the side profile or the rear 3/4, it's got that ungainly bulge to it, much like the CLA.
The side profile has balanced visual proportions, and with the 18-inch wheels and the fat 225 section tires, it even looks like a premium sedan.
I think the best angle to view the 2 Series from is the rear 3/4. It looks like a proper sports sedan fit to wear that Bavarian roundel. Of course, there are those big air dams, all that sporty drama that's happening up front with those M Sport bits. But I think even with its simplistic styling, even with the lack of all that drama, the tail end looks a lot sportier than the front.
The rear looks dramatic in its own way, with the two functional exhaust barrels, the sleek diffuser, the even sleeker tail lights, and the gloss black applique running between them. The conventional boot lid hides away a sizable 430 litres of cargo space and has a 40-20-40 split on the foldable seats for additional space or versatility.
And despite the coupe roofline, ingress and egress is actually not a problem at all. Of course, for taller passengers, this is going to be a bit of a squeeze, but for my height of 5'8", the headroom is actually not quite bad. I have about 2 inches of space over my head. Of course, like most coupes, there's a bit of space that is scooped out here, but you can only fit 2 adults and a kid in here because the panoramic sunroof doesn't extend all the way to the back, and yet you have a nice and airy feel in here. Now, in terms of the space, foot space is quite good. Knee room is excellent. This driver's seat is set to my driving preference, and under the support is not bad at all.
The rear seat gets 2 USB-C ports and AC vents too, but this cabin comes with a 2-zone climate control only, and it's primarily the front seat occupants that it wants to pamper. The front seats are comfortably large and roomy, and the cushioning is comfortable for long-distance journeys.
Because the 2 Series is targeted at those with a younger bent of mind, it's got a sporty interior. Of course, it's typical BMW, so you get a driver-centric dashboard, everything is angled towards the driver, and that's very good news. Adding further goodness to that effect is the presence of ambient lighting. You get the BMW assistant, the voice assistant, and you also get gesture controls, which up until now were only restricted to the higher-end cars from BMW. You also get a digital instrumentation, again inspired by the BMW Z4, which means it gets the reverse tachometer. You can also specify the car with a heads-up display. It's an optional extra. And then you also get this infotainment screen. It's touchscreen. It's not the biggest in the business, but it is very crisp, very easy to read because it is angled towards the driver, and it's got a very slick response as well. What I also like is it gets wireless Apple CarPlay, which means you also get a wireless charger, and I really like the placement of it. As of now, the BMW 2 Series is only offered in India with a diesel engine. It's the familiar 2-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. It's in the familiar 190 PS tune as well, and in this little package, it's quite explosive.
The transversely mounted diesel has exceptional refinement levels, and the 220D M Sport tested here managed a 0-100 sprint of 7.7 seconds in our test.
You wouldn't really have to look at the spec sheet or really have more talent than these onboard electronics to know that this is a front-wheel driven car. Now that is something that has upset a lot of purists in the past as well. Every time BMW does a front-wheel driven car, we've seen that with the X1. However, with the new age electronics, it's actually not that bad a thing.
The engine is mated to a piece of tech that BMW calls the ARB, or Actuator Contiguous Wheel Slip Limitation System, which essentially controls understeer that results out of excessive power or torque that is fed to the front wheels. It is a common problem with front-wheel driven cars, but with new age electronics that can work faster than ever and using new age sensors, the car's ECU can prevent or preempt excessive understeer, meaning you don't have to be too measured with the throttle all the time.
I quite like the way the gearbox is tuned and the way it responds to changing throttle inputs, whether you're driving in the city, out on the highway, or on the twisties. It feels a little bit more responsive in its tuning compared to what we've experienced in the X1, and that's a very good feeling. The gearbox also gets a coasting function when you're on the highway, and that essentially helps this car get a phenomenal fuel economy as well. This is of course a diesel, so compared to what the petrol would manage, it will certainly give you a better range and better economy. But I like how the gearbox has been tuned and how relaxed this engine runs.
The gearbox isn't as intuitive as the ZF transmissions in the higher spec BMW sedans, but this icing unit seems to be tuned for slightly quicker responses than before.
There are driving modes of course, but the most basic kit from the BMW universe. So you get the Eco Pro mode, you have the Comfort, and you have the Sport. Now why am I switching between modes if I'm on the twisty roads? Why am I not just sticking to the Sport mode? Well, that's because the power delivery in the Comfort mode is actually a lot cleaner and more linear as compared to what the Sport mode manages. There are some tight switchbacks around here on the roads that I'm driving where in the sport mode, the car tends to have a torque steer despite all those electronics, and that's sort of killing the fun. The comfort mode still makes it a lot more enjoyable because you don't have that sudden surge of torque coming in. It doesn't feel a little too eager, a little too enthusiastic when you're driving around tight switchbacks.
While the 2 Series is targeted for those with a sportier bent of mind, its suspension is set up for a relatively cushier ride. There are no adaptive dampers to firm things up, but I doubt if you will complain about the stock setup.
I quite like the feel of the brakes, and even on speed breakers, which you're going to encounter often like I just did, it's not a big worry.
What you have to be careful about are the low-profile wheels on poor road conditions, but these again are premium car tantrums one cannot avoid in India, and it is a caution that you have to exercise for being a part of the luxury club. In a nutshell then, the 2 Series is certainly a better buy than the CLA was because it has a sprightlier engine, better dynamics and a more comfortable cabin. Furthermore, it has enough tech to keep you entertained and ensure that you don't feel shortchanged for the Bavarian badge. It is also more accessible than a BMW X1 diesel, which makes it a sweet deal that will attract a lot of newcomers to the brand.
Now, Rohit, in the longer version of the review, which let me remind our viewers is online right now on YouTube, on Facebook, on IGTV as well, you did mention you basically compared the 2 Series and the 3 Series, and you told us which one you prefer. Would you mind telling our viewers once more?
Of course, I will. In fact, what I haven't mentioned in that long version of the review is the pricing, because when I drove the car last week, the pricing wasn't revealed to us. The launch happened today, and now that I have the pricing with me, I'm a little disappointed with the pricing of the 2 Series. I was hoping that it would be a lot cheaper than what they have launched it at. I was told it would be significantly cheaper than the X1 as well, though it isn't. The prices are exactly comparable to the X1 diesel. And if you were to compare it to the 3 Series, there's about 3 or 4 lakh rupees between the two, depending on where you're buying, and that's the difference in the ex-showroom price. And for that kind of money, if you're stretching that much, I would want you to stretch a little further and get yourself the 3 Series, because that's a lovely car. I mean, that is everything that we know of BMW. That is everything that we expect of BMW. Whereas the 2 Series will feel like a bit of a compromise because of the way it drives as compared to the 3 Series. So I would rather stretch and get myself the 3 Series, even if I have to forego on a few features. I would still get myself the 3 Series. It's just a lot more enjoyable, and it's an icon in itself. So that's the one that I would personally go for. With the new the pricing that has been revealed today is a 3 Series that I would go with.
Yeah, let's also not forget that the 3 Series was last year's performance, premium car of the year
Yes.
under the ICOTY panel. So, it is an outstanding car, and yeah, if you can stretch yourself, that is certainly the better car to buy. Also, I'd like to point out here, now the 2 Series is not the first time that BMW has stepped into this segment. They've come with a car even below this, which was 1 Series, and that didn't do too well either. While the opportunity exists for a lot of people to step into the premium segment over here, or rather to buy into one of these German brands, let's keep in mind you've also got on the other hand the Octavia, the RS245, and that's a phenomenal car, more powerful, more spacious, and a lot more fun as well. And Rohit, I know you've driven the car. What are your opinions? Would someone consider buying the RS245 over the 2 Series?
I think they should buy the 245. It's a much better car. It sounds better, drives better, it's got a whole lot more power, and somewhere I also think it looks better. It looks sportier. It definitely looks like a proper sports sedan. And if I was putting my money down for either one of these, I think I would any day buy the 245. It's such an enjoyable car. It's just everything that you want out of a sports sedan, and it's perfectly priced. And the fact that there are a few more remaining with Skoda India, thanks to the COVID, the only thing that we can thank to the COVID probably right now, I think that's the one to buy between the two.
I have one question on the design, since all the BMWs that have been coming in recently have that big gaping grille. What happened to it in this one?
Well, it is not possible to actually do that kind of a design element on this, because it's a much more slender and smaller car as well. And of course, front wheel driven, so the architecture largely revolves around those front wheels. So that was one of the challenges over here. So which is why it's also got the slimmer grille. Also keep in mind the slimmer grille also gives you the sense of the proportions of a wider car, which a car that has got a wider stance, and therefore the perception that there is more space inside it as well. That's very essential for something in this category, for a car of this size. So this is one of the reasons why that smaller, slimmer grille exists at the front, rather than the larger grills, which are more dominating on the more premium cars, the larger, the X5, the X7, even the 5 Series for that matter, or even the 7 for that matter. The larger grille really stands out and, kind of brings attention, draws a lot of attention to the car, which was not needed on something of this sort.
Right. Okay, so we'll go back to taking a couple of questions once again. Kailash still had a question about the Defender. He wanted to know whether this updated version has off-roading capabilities as its predecessor, or the previous version had. Does it have the same?
Well, Kailash, you're talking about two entirely different generations of vehicle. The current generation Defender also has phenomenal capabilities, probably far more than the previous generation, simply because it simplifies a lot of the off-road driving for people who might not entirely know how to use a vehicle off-road. So those programmable, those customizable modes that it has got for the off-road mode, off-road terrain, which you can select the terrain selector knob. It makes driving off-road a lot easier, a lot more accessible, a lot friendlier for a lot of people who don't understand the nuances of off-road driving. The previous generation off-road, the Defender, was just a mechanical system. You actually had to know what you were doing. If not, you had to continuously experiment with it and go through all of those bits, to all of that terrain, to understand what you could and what you couldn't achieve. And it was fantastic that the Defender previously could do a significant amount of off-roading for that matter. But it was also easy to repair, maintain, and get back on the road. Unlike the new Defender, which I mentioned earlier also, with all of the electronic systems that the new Defender has got, it's going to be a bit more challenging to take off-road, because if something does go wrong, you're messed up. You have got nowhere, no recourse. There's nothing that you can do except call for help, and if help can arrive and reach you where you are for that matter. The previous Defender wasn't the case. You could just work on it, get it back into shape, and head back out again, continue your journey, which may not entirely possible with the new Defender. So in a sense, yes, the previous generation Defender had a lot more in terms of off-road capabilities, but I don't think otherwise, where the whole structure of it is, there'll be a lot of difference between the two.
Rohit, here's a very interesting question, because you've been doing a couple of reviews in the past few stories I've seen. You've been complaining about the ground clearance. So here's one from Kanishka. Can you suggest some sedans that have a decent ground clearance where you don't have to keep worrying about kissing the speed breakers?
Well, I would like to know what kind of a price bracket we are looking at, because most new sedans that I have driven in the past couple of months, they have the typical tantrums of a sedan, and I'm saying this because now we have been sort of spoiled by all the crossovers with the high ground clearance, and then for example, the new Honda City, the Verna, they all have those problems. And given the ridiculous size speed humps in India lately, I don't know what we are up to, but yeah, everything seems to be scraping the underbellies of these sedans. So I think in that regard, still the Verna is still slightly better in that sense. Even the Rapid is quite better in that sense. The new Honda City, because of its longer overhangs especially, it tends to scrape the chin quite often. But if you're able to give me a better idea on the kind of price bracket that you're looking at, I should be able to help you out better.
All right. Yogi wants to know, what is the best automatic petrol car under 10 lakh rupees on road?
I think under 10 lakh rupees, I think it's the new, the Rapid Automatic. I think it's very well priced. It is, I mean, on road will not be under 10 lakh rupees, but if you have to stretch a little over 10 lakh, you should still be able to get the Rapid TSI there. And we recently drove that car. That review will be up very soon. The text review is already up on overdrive.in, and I think it's a very nice package. You get the space of a proper sedan. It's not a compromise like a typical sub 4 meter. You get a space of it, and then you have a very nice gearbox and engine combination in it as well.
All right, Rohit, here's one more for you. Best cruiser bike in the range of 3 to 5 lakhs.
Well, I think let's take this question a little later in the show, because we have spy shots of the new Royal Enfield, and that could be just what you're expecting in this particular price bracket.
All right. All right, I just saw another one. Abhishek says, Tucson or the Trailhawk, which will be a better choice for mild off-roading? What?
Well, did Abhishek, they both be equally good. The Trailhawk will offer you a slightly better abilities because of the selectable, off-road, the modes that it has got also. So it can select and judge what kind of conditions you're driving on, and it will spread the torque accordingly. However, having said that, the Tucson also, keep in mind, has got good ground clearance. So that could also be the slightly better one where if you were driving over obstacles which sit pretty high up on the road. So in that sense, the Tucson could have that advantage. But for all of the purposes, I think the Trailhawk will do pretty well.
Okay. We'll just take a break from the questions and we'll just quickly run through the car news. So earlier this week, India's first hydrogen fuel cell car has completed a trial run of 250 kilometers under standard Indian driving conditions at speeds of 60 to 65 kilometers. A Mahindra e-Verito was retrofitted with a 10 kilowatt electric cell stack and a Type 3 commercial hydrogen tank that stores 1.75 kgs of the gas at 350 bar pressure. This tech is believed to be better suited for commercial vehicles in India since this requires a smaller battery than equivalent EVs, which could be a major push in adopting this tech. But Rohit, I have a question. As a country that's still working on EV adoption, do you think that the idea of a hydrogen fuel cell car in the future would be widely adopted?
Well, absolutely. That is the future that we need to move towards. Even the electric vehicles at this point in time, the BHEVs, or just the EVs for that matter, are essentially a stopgap measure going towards hydrogen cell powered cars, hydrogen fuel cell powered cars. Which is the ultimate destination for all of us, because it is the cleanest form of energy that we can utilize in an automobile. So that is certainly the future. But keep in mind, it's not only about making with hydrogen. The challenge is not only about making the powertrains and getting the cars ready or the vehicles ready for it. It's also about storage issues at the same time. Hydrogen is a fairly volatile fuel, far more volatile than petrol is. So it's also a challenge about how do you store this, how do you access the fuel, how do you dispense the fuel. All of these also that have to be worked on simultaneously. And that is going to be a bigger challenge than actually just making the powertrain. Making the powertrain is not so much of an issue at this point in time. Most global manufacturers are still trying and figuring out solutions as to how to, storage of hydrogen. How is that going to be easy and simplified and safe at the end of the day?
Right. So while we're on the subject of clean mobility, just a few days after the EQC was launched, Mercedes has now shown us the 4x4 EQC, what it could look like. It's a one-off model developed by a cross-departmental team. The SUV has been fitted with 285/50 R20 off-road tires and the 4x4 squared suspension. It's got impressive ground clearance of 293 millimeters, water wading depth of 400 millimeters, and also an approach angle of 31.8 degrees from the 20.6 degree in the standard EQC, and the departure angle too has increased from 20 to 33 degrees. Now, Mercedes hasn't really indicated whether this model will be considered for a production run, but it's an interesting project nonetheless.
It is. It's a very interesting project because the biggest challenge over here is how does an EV, how are you going to manage getting power back into your EV in off-road conditions? If you were driving off-road, you head out into the wild, you go some distance, and you run out of battery and you run out of power. What do you do then? That's one. Second, in off-road conditions, the electric motors will sap a lot more power than they would in on-road conditions. That 4x4 drivetrain will sap a lot more power because you're going to be using a lot of torque, a lot of time. So, and that will drain and deplete your battery of energy very, very quickly. So these are challenges that in off-road. So yes, it's a one-off at this point in time, but we need far better solutions. At this point, the only propulsion units that I can see for off-road vehicles are still petrol or diesel for that matter, IC engines. They're not electrics necessarily to take you off-road and go on a journey. Getting overland is going to be a fairly big challenge.
I think it looks interesting though. It looks pretty cool.
It looks interesting. It looks pretty cool. But any vehicle with those flared arches, that much of ground clearance, and taller suspension, off-road tires, and those nice chunky wheels will always look nicer.
Well, what I was reading is that Mercedes says that they just want to show that a different type of mobility could also be exciting for people in the future. So that was the idea behind this car. There's yet another news. This festive season, Audi India has launched a new entry-level variant of the Q8 called the Celebration at 98.98 lakh rupees. It's 35 lakh rupees cheaper than the standard Q8, and you get the whole gamut of features as the standard Q8. What's missing though is the adaptive air suspension, replaced with steel springs with damper control. The sound system, the haptic feedback, aluminium trim, manual boot cover, and you get 19-inch alloys instead of the 20-inch ones. Mechanicals, though, remain unchanged. Okay.
So,
Yeah,
we should take a question here. There's a question from the Wanderer.
About the fuel cell?
Yeah, the fuel cell bit. So does the fuel cell car have similar tech like the Honda Clarity, as in fuel running motors directly without batteries? We haven't got the entire information on the specification, what the powertrain is like, but we'll have some information for you on what the powertrain is like in some time. Also, why does it only have such a small fuel tank? This is, again, keep in mind, just an experimental vehicle. They're still testing it out. It's not for production at this point in time. They're still analyzing and understanding what the country can do with fuel cell vehicles. So in that sense, that's why it's a smaller fuel tank at this point in time, Lazy Wanderer. Once a more production ready vehicle at some point in the future becomes ready, you will have larger fuel tank sizes for sure.
Okay. We have a question from Aryan Bhanot. He wants to know, what are your views on the Nissan Kicks, and between the Kicks CVT and the Duster CVT, which one would be a better choice?
If you're talking about the Duster Turbo and the Kicks Turbo, I think the Duster CVT Turbo is the only one we've driven so far. I don't expect the Kicks to be very different than the Duster. Maybe a few features here and there, like the 360-degree camera, but I personally like the Duster a lot more. It's priced very well compared to the Kicks, and I think it just comes across as a more robust product overall. So if I was putting my money down on either one of these, I would get myself the Duster.
This is a very generic question, but Race Wings wants to know, how about ADV bikes for India? Is there any news as such?
Well, there are quite a few made by Indian manufacturers as well. The X-Pulse is one. You have the Himalayan, and there is news of a bigger Himalayan also on the 650cc platform. That's still some time away. There's also news of a 400cc X-Pulse, or somewhere in that category that Hero is looking at. And that again should be a made in India, made for India kind of a product, which should appeal to many. So yeah, those are the two products that we have been hearing about and are on the horizon. So that should happen sometime by 2022 is what we expect. So yeah, that's the news from our end about these two products.
Rohit, there's one from Arnav. Which would be better as an overall package, the Bajaj Dominar 250 or the Suzuki ASF or Gixxer 250? Difference in weight is substantial and not so much in power and price.
Well, let me give you a little bit of info or inside info here. When we were judging the motorcycle of the year last year, the Gixxer 250 came very close to winning that proposition, and that speaks volumes about what the Gixxer is all about. And if I had to choose between these two, I would pick the Gixxer 250 for what it is. It is lighter, of course, like you said. It feels a lot sprightlier as well than what the package would suggest. And even for day-to-day commuting, it's very nicely spec'd, and the overall comfort of the vehicle is also quite good. So if I had to choose between the two, my choice would be the Suzuki.
So when he raised his comeback, he says he's clarified he meant electric ADV bikes. And
Okay.
racing, I think it's very important to understand, as I just mentioned, for the off-road bit, also for the off-road electric 4x4, the EQC for the Mercedes-Benz. It's the range that matters. And currently also electric motorcycles don't have much of a range, about 80 to about 110 kilometers claimed, but usually in real world conditions, we get about 70 kilometers, 60 kilometers. And taking an off-road motorcycle in ADV, electric ADV, where are you going to go with that kind of, with just that much charge, and how are you going to really manage it? It's something, that's a question for the future, of course. And we definitely will see some solutions coming out in that space, but nothing that's there currently.
Okay. Rohit, here's one for you. Your first impression of the R1250 GS.
Well, why first impressions? We have detailed impressions of the R1250 GS. We did the ADV mega shootout. I think that was one of the best test rides that I could manage, thanks to Overdrive, and that is what helped me make my choice, of course. I know that is where the question is coming from for Mayur. So yeah, we have detailed impressions about it. So do search for the ADV mega shootout Overdrive, and you shall have a long 45-minute video detailing everything that we think about that motorcycle. Why first impressions? Like I said, it's got all the details that you want to know about that motorcycle.
Yeah,
All
another
right.
question. Take that.
Sorry?
You got another question. Can we expect the Ford Ranger Raptor in India, right-hand drive, now available in UK, Australia, etc.? Yes, please bring the Ford Ranger Raptor down to India, Ford.
I know, I mean, with that 2,500 unit rule that the government has so nicely tailor-made for vehicles like these, I think every car maker should, or even bike manufacturer should exploit this rule and bring these kind of vehicles. I would love for the Raptor to come to India, the Bronco to come to India and take on the newly launched Defender and the Wrangler and the G-Wagon. I would like to see the Civic Type R, maybe, the Mustang convertible. Why not? I mean,
The list
I
is
think the rule is
endless. I
just
mean,
exactly the list is endless.
It's not it's not the Raptor, the Ranger Raptor. I mean, that's been one of my go-to, or rather one of my favorites for a very long time, and wanted to be capable of doing. And of course, the styling and everything. And but it's not just that. There are so many vehicles that manufacturers can get down. But keep in mind, under 2,500 rule also, these are CBUs, so the prices will go significantly higher than expected, and that's the biggest challenge most of the manufacturers are facing at this point in time. Is when you get when you get a vehicle down under that regulation, the pricing is something that they cannot control, and it becomes far more expensive than what is expected. And that's the challenge for a lot of these manufacturers. So it always makes more sense to manufacture, produce those vehicles in India rather than just import them here.
I was just going to say that, but that the pricing would be too much for you to go off-road, actually go off-road with these vehicles, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, you have the T-Roc, you have the Karoq, which are at 25 lakh rupees. So, something like the Hilux that someone asked about. The reason why Toyota is not bringing it here is because they told us if they were to bring it here, it would cost somewhere close to 50 lakh rupees. That's more than a Fortuner. Would you buy a Hilux at that price? Would you buy a pickup at that price? That would be even higher, maybe 70, 75 lakh rupees. Would you spend that kind of money on a pickup, even if it's a lifestyle pickup? And then if you were to spend that kind of money, would you really take it off-road, or would you just prefer getting yourself something like the D-Max instead? So, these are things that just don't fit into the economies of scale, the economies of logic. So yeah, I don't think there will be many takers, even if Ford were to bring it because of that price point.
All right.
I
Here's
think you should
one.
proceed. Already well past your time, Sohini.
That's true. We'll take this one and then we'll move to the motorcycle news. Thoughts about the new i20 rear design?
Well, I think it looks quite good. There is a bit of the Audi A1 hints to it. I think the Audi A1 was one of the best looking designs when it came out. People went gaga about it. I'm talking about the current generation even, of course. And somewhere the new i20 has hints of that. And if we have accepted a radical design like the Ultra so well, I'm sure something as radical as this should work as well. I mean, Hyundai is known for some of its most radical designs, and this one certainly looks the part. I think it will find a lot of takers. In fact, the rear end I think is the best angle to look at the new i20 from. Now, of course, we'll give that verdict when we actually see the vehicle, which shouldn't be too far from now. But from what we see in the images, I think it looks quite stunning.
Rohit, I have a different opinion though. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the way it looks at the rear. And while it's very unique, it's a standout, especially the tail lamp assembly, which has got that the twin the edges protruding out and wrapping over onto the body, onto the fenders. For that matter, I'm not very fond. I'm not saying I'm very fond of it, but it's something that I had to see in the flesh before I actually decide whether it looks good or not. But the images don't really do justice to that design language. While the front is fantastic, I'm still a little undecided about the rear. Yes, there are elements of Honda for that matter. I remember the Brio, which has a large windscreen at the rear, and it looks like the i20 has something similar to that over here as well. I'm hoping that's not it does not detract from the overall design, which is very, very interesting. But let's wait and watch for the actual car to see what looks like in the flesh.
Well, I
Personally,
think
I
that is
quite
what
like it. I'm
radical
very waiting.
designs do. They polarize opinions. We are on different
Absolutely.
sides for
Taking a
the
classic
i20. It was
example.
the same for the Creta, but we both agreed that we like the Tucson, the new Tucson, how it looks. So I think yeah, that's
Absolutely.
what radical
Absolutely.
designs are all about, and that's what Hyundai is gunning for.
It should generate conversation at the end of the day, and that's exactly what it's
Yeah.
done. And eaten into Soini's times, waiting to waiting for the
Rohit, you can run us through the motorcycle news for this week, please.
Yes, of course. A couple of weeks back when we spoke on the on Harley's big news about wanting to exit India. Now it looks like Harley's found the hero, which is Hero Motors. Looks like a Hero Motorcorp could actually give some sort of a support system to the existing Harley dealership network, to its existing portfolio, and they will sort of take care of the portfolio and all its premium products. And there's also news that Harley will probably look at co-developing some entry-level models with Hero's support. So there's no official news on it. There's a lot that is being said. We did reach out to Hero, and Hero said that all of it is speculation right now, and they don't want to comment on it. They haven't denied it either, but they don't want to give any official communication regarding this. So that's something that will only be clear as time goes forward. But yeah, this is what it is right now. Harley could in fact find a hero in Hero Motorcorp. And speaking of Hero, we have the new Glamour Blaze, which has been launched at the price of 72,200 to be precise. It essentially comes with a USB port on the handlebar for you to charge your smartphone or any such peripheral devices. And then there is that new paint scheme that you see on your screen right now in that gray and what are they calling it? The gray with the funk lime yellow graphics. I think it's a color combo that a lot of manufacturers around the globe are exploiting right now, and Hero's doing their bit as well, and that is what it looks like. Like I said, 72,200 is the price, is the graphics and the USB port. Otherwise, there's no change to the features or the mechanicals of this vehicle. The third bit of news is that TVS has sold more than 4 million units around the world since 2005. That's a big feat for TVS. It's a matter of pride for every Indian as well, every Indian motorcyclist, because TVS has been doing their bit with some excellent products, excellent build quality. They've also managed to convince BMW for the manufacturing of the 310s, and it clearly shows in the kind of response the TVS products have received worldwide with the 4 million units. So a big congratulations to TVS on that. And there's also one little bit of news that I would want to add. Ducati has given out specs of the new V4 engine that is coming to the Multistrada V4. The Multistrada V4 will be launched in November, or at least shown in November, and it will come to India very soon. And they're saying it's going to get 170 PS of power. That's massive. So if you want an ultra quick sport tourer, I think the V4 Multistrada is going to push the envelope up, and we'll come back with all the info that we'll have about this vehicle as and when it's revealed officially. But that wraps up the motorcycle news for now.
Rohit, you missed
Soini,
the...
and he's pretty upset.
Sorry,
Why
sir.
you question
I
as
know,
always?
but one sec, but Rohit, you have forgotten about the Royal Enfield Cruiser
Oh yes,
that you
how can we forget
mentioned.
about that? Yes, big
You
spy
did. You
shots
forgot
came
about
out, clear spy shots came out for the Royal
You are
Enfield 650cc
you
Cruiser.
are now your loyalties are now veering towards the highness, I'm sure, and that ridiculous.
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that, not until I have ridden that motorcycle, though I'm waiting to ride it. But this 650 Cruiser is going to find itself in a very nice spot where it has very little competition. No highness, no nothing. It's essentially going to compete with its own Interceptor 650. That's going to be the biggest competitor for it. This is going to be one of the natural upgrades for anyone who's looking to upgrade from something like the Thunderbird. There is, of course, a replacement for the Thunderbird coming very soon, which is the Meteor 350. Yeah, we've been waiting for it for long now. But this 650 is what you see in front of you. This is going to be the flagship for Royal Enfield's 650cc lineup. We already have the Interceptor and the Continental GT 650. This will sit on top of it. It's expected to come up with better features. Maybe even a larger instrumentation is what we are told. There could be a bump in power and torque also is what we are told. But all this is speculation, of course, right now. What is confirmed is that it will continue to run on that same 650cc parallel twin engine. There is going to be change to the chassis, of course. It is going to be quite low set, is what you can see from the figures. I remember someone asking us a question about the bike in the backdrop. Is it a roadster variant? I'm not yet sure. I don't know if it's just a different angle of the same motorcycle. Another test mule that is just riding with it. That is something that we'll need to wait and watch out for. But yeah, this is going to be Royal Enfield's entry into the parallel twin 650cc category cruiser. The only competition, so to speak, is going to be the Vulcan 650, which Kawasaki has retailing at a little under 6 lakh rupees. So from that standpoint, at half the price, Royal Enfield is going to have another big ticket product, and they're going to love their way to the banks, I'm sure.
All right.
So,
What
Rohit,
you were saying?
I have a question for you very quickly. Do you think cruisers are coming back into the spotlight? Because Harley's been facing a lot of problems with cruisers, and they're the global dominators for the cruiser segment. Their entire lineup has been all about cruisers to date, and they're facing a lot of problems around the world where acceptance is concerned for cruisers, because most of the attention is now diverted towards super sports or even to the ADV segments for that matter, where you're seeing tremendous growth. Uh, so does it make sense at this point in time for Royal Enfield also to get in that cruiser segment and to look at something in that space?
I'm not very sure. Like we discussed a couple of weeks back, the cruiser segment overall, across various sizes and engine specs, has been just seeing a downfall. And even for that matter, Triumph, if you look at the Speedmaster that came to India based on the successful Bonneville lineup, failed to do anything at all in the Indian market. And I believe that even globally, the story hasn't been very great for the Speedmaster. So I think instead of a cruiser, if Royal Enfield would have probably looked at the ADV based on the 650 as the third product, I think they would have a lot more customers lining up at the showrooms and showing a lot more excitement as compared to this cruiser. But yeah, I personally believe that the cruiser market isn't really doing the way it did back in the day. I mean, even the Thunderbird for that matter, it was the ideal choice for a lot of tourers. But now, of course, the loyalties have shifted to the Himalayan, and that's a trade that we've seen across various price points where people are now looking at the ADV segment as the do-it-all motorcycle, from commuting to touring to even doing all your long distance or even riding in the mountains for that matter. It's the do-it-all motorcycle, and that is the segment that people are really keen on at various price points and at various engine specs. So I think Royal Enfield should have gone with a 650cc ADV instead of the cruiser, at least at this point in time, is what I believe.
Okay, before
So
we wrap up,
there's one more question that I'd like to take over here, and Sahil has been desperately trying to get our attention. And he had a question. He essentially says his fifth generation Honda City was driven 125 kilometers, and the dealer said that they have two dealerships, and the distance between them is 115 kilometers. They've driven the car from one city to the another instead of sending it in trucks. Sahil, at this point in time, I just like to say that there have been logistical issues, and with the pandemic, with the lockdown, there have been logistical issues for distribution. And most manufacturers are adjusting and trying their best to make sure that customers all across the country have been receiving their product. If you think your car has come to you in a good condition and there are no issues on that, I'd just tell you, I just ignore the 125 kilometers that have been driven in. They may not have had a choice. Just transporting a few cars on a truck is not the easiest and most logically simple solution. They may have wanted to get the cars to their other dealership in a hurry so that deliveries were done quickly enough, and the customers who put and invested their money into that product get those products ASAP. So it's also possible we'll give the benefit of doubt to the manufacturer as well, that they just wanted to make sure that deliveries happen quickly enough, and that's why there was a lot of rejigs and redistribution allocations across the country from dealer to dealer within cities and everything as well. But it is, however, not an acceptable practice. And in better times, I think this was certainly not something that would have been expected. The cars should effectively come to you with very low mileage on the clocks and should have been delivered to that dealership with on a trailer, for that matter, not to have been driven down. The only place the cars are driven down are from usually the stockyards to the dealership, which are very very close by to each other, for that matter, not more than about 50 kilometers. Also.
okay. But Rohit, this question is to both of you. What would you prefer, a car or bike which does everything decently well, or specific bike or cars which do specific things really well?
In my case, I want I want one of both actually, which does everything decently.
Yeah,
Rohit?
same here. Same here. I mean, depends on what I'm expecting from the vehicle. For example, if I'm looking for a track machine, I wouldn't want to take an adventure bike that also does well on the track. I would want a machine that is meant for the track. Similarly, if I'm looking for a commuter, I want a vehicle that gives me all the creature comforts that I expect when I'm commuting, and at the same time have a great fuel economy, and at the same time have good drivability, decent space. So for me, it's always a product that is meant to do what it's meant to do. I mean, there are people who ride up Hayabusas and bicycles all the way to Khardungla, but ideally that's not what is expected of them. So, for me, a vehicle has to be purpose built, and I would want to buy a vehicle that is built for a particular purpose that I'm looking at.
Well, given, I mean, if money wasn't a question, I'd definitely have one for every situation, for every condition. A sports car, an SUV, proper off-road vehicle for that matter, and what else, whatever, name it, I would have one of every example. But the company doesn't pay me enough to do that, and we have to live with what we get. So it's an ADV motorcycle and an SUV for me.
Yeah,
All
that
right.
explains the popularity of both the genres.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right. How about KTM Duke 250 ADVs? When is it going to launch?
Before Diwali. It should be announced anytime now. Before Diwali is when it will come out. Of course, they are targeting the BMW 310 GS with this. They will price it much cheaper than the 310 GS, make it very accessible. Sub 2 lakh rupees is what I'm expecting from this, as an initial launch price. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's somewhere around 2.25 or 2.3 lakh to begin with.
Okay, here's a question from
I
Rajiv. He
think
knows.
time slot. We're almost at 7:30 right now. And I'll
You
like
can
there's
just
one
ask
last
one.
question. On a different note, there's one last question that comes from Anmol Gupta. On a different note, would love to know more on the scale models behind the Lady Sweet collection. I'm guessing Anmol has seen that Defender on your table. That's a series one. What scale
Very,
model is
very
that?
important.
There you go. There you go.
Yep.
That's
If
a,
you
that's
can
that's
see
the
it.
series. That's the earlier series. That's before the Defender.
Oops.
Yeah. There you go.
And I have posters as well, but I didn't know where to place it.
Yeah, showing you just one of these posters from the
Yeah,
Heritage
why don't you show
Collection.
those
Showing
posters as well?
The really cool ones from.
yes, the series one right there.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to participate in the 70th anniversary celebrations of Land Rover, and this is what they had given us.
I think we need to wrap off right now. So we
Yes,
got 7:30.
I think
Oh,
it's
that's
time to wrap
he's
up
just showing
with
off now. He's just showing off. Same as Rohit. Rohit was. I had to mention this, Rohit. Rohit, that was a very, very long walk that you took in your 2 Series Gran Coupé opening. You showing off here and fitter by the day, is it?
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely. And it was done in one take, and that's the best part. There were no retakes on it. And after that, the cameraman had to take a 5-minute break because he was out of breath by the time, because the cameraman was walking backwards, right, and he was out of breath by the time my PTC was over. So he was really
And,
thankful that it was done in one take.
and that's what the cycle helmet is doing behind your head, behind your right
Oh
head.
yes, I've been cycling as well and riding. So yeah, trying to be fit.
Yeah, so I guess the lockdown has got all of us trying to get fitter rather than fatter.
Yes.
Great job, guys.
All right. So just before we wrap up, let me just remind everyone that you can catch up with the Overdrive television show on Saturday at 1 p.m. and Sunday 12:30 and 1 p.m. In fact, we have the Land Rover Defender, the BMW 2 Series Gran Coupe, as well as the Honda CB350 story for you. So do catch up then. We'll see you next week. Goodbye and many thanks for watching.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. And then next time we'll give away the